Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.
Welcome to Your Family Dog, a podcast dedicated to helping families love living with dogs.
Welcome back to the Your Family Dog podcast. I'm Tina Spring, owner of Sit Happens Dog Training and Behavior and originator of 90 Days to the Perfect Puppy. I'm joined today by my friend, Katie Gallagher. Like lots of my friends, Katie started as a customer and I love her and she's fiery and she's awesome and I dig her. And I'm so grateful that when I reached out, she said, absolutely, about coming on. Today, we're going to talk about Pythiosis. And we're going to talk about why this is an emerging issue that matters to us. It matters if you have livestock. It matters if you have dogs and cats. It matters if you're a human or you know other humans, because this is becoming a much more significant problem. And this is the first of what I expect to be multiple episodes talking from different perspectives. So today we're talking to Katie, who had a dog who contracted Pythiosis. We're also going to probably talk to a local vet who has treated Pythiosis in some of its forms. And then eventually I hope to get Dr. Bob Glass on to talk about Pythiosis from a researcher and a clinician perspective. So Katie, could you tell the story of Pythiosis and how it's impacted your family?
Certainly. What my dog Minnie Moo is the dog that actually contracted the Pythiosis. She was about 9 months old. I live on a property that has a creek-fed pond in the front yard. So having labs, of course, they went swimming a lot, sometimes multiple times a day. And it was just something that they enjoyed doing. They frolicked around the edge of the pond, that kind of thing. Some were more aggressive than others, but Minnie Moo was one that she stood around the edge a lot before she actually took the plunge and started swimming in the pond. So around 9 months old, I noticed on her front left chest, she had something that appeared to be a bump, let's just say. I liken it to, it was a small pecan type shape underneath the skin. So I didn't think much of it because they're outside, they play, they roam, they romp, And so it didn't seem to go away. And so I took her in to see my local vet and he said, oh my God, it's a spider bite. And I was like, So looking on the back porch where she had been too, I saw a brown widow spider, which I didn't even know they came in brown, but it was a brown widow with an orange hourglass as opposed to the black and red.
Well, I didn't know that either.
Cousins. And I was like, oh, he's right. It bit her, So I, took care of the spider, blah, blah, blah. She's on a round of antibiotics and it didn't go away. So I was like, okay, maybe it's going to take a second round of antibiotics or change up the antibiotics. I didn't know, but it wasn't going away. So within a short period of time, probably just before she finished that first round of antibiotics, this bump broke through the skin. And it looked like it was oval in shape, but it was shaped like a donut type of thing. And I was like, wow, that doesn't seem quite right. But anyway, so I took her back to my local vet and they said, well, we need to really remove that. And I said, okay, I agree. We fully need to get that off.
Right. That looks yucky.
Yeah, it was, it was shaped like a donut with a hole in the middle, but around the edges, it had holes. And so it was weeping. It was very odd. Okay. And so I was like, oh, this just doesn't seem like a regular spider bite, but okay. So then we made the decision that we would actually remove it. But at that particular visit, I felt a smaller one directly under her left armpit, left front leg, that was still under the skin. And I was like, oh. So she had
surgery. That's where you start to wonder, is our house overrun with brown recluse? Or like brown with widows. Brown widow spiders?
Yeah, I didn't know. Now, mind you, it's only been less than 2 weeks. So this is
and she's a lab puppy. Like she bounces around and hurts herself and,
9 months old.
like just being a
So,
goofy, happy puppy.
yes, you're exactly
But
right.
did you
And I
see
thought,
any behavioral changes at this stage?
no,
So it was just she had this little sore and now you felt another bump.
yes. And that other bump was probably there when I first saw the one on her chest, but I didn't know.
Right, you didn't find it.
Um, by the time we decided to have it surgically removed, it was about the size of a 50-cent piece.
Oh,
So
so
it
big.
wasn't tiny. It wasn't tiny, like minuscule. It had
Right, it was
started to
big.
grow. Yes. So they surgically removed it, and of course they stitched it up, but the stitches kept breaking open and it kept growing beyond. It never would seal shut. It was almost as if it just kept expanding beyond its bounds. And so I was watching again, and of course she was on more medication because of the surgery and that kind of thing.
But it wasn't knocking it back at all.
No, no, not really.
So
I mean,
whatever
it
we're
looked a
doing
little
isn't
better.
working.
Well, it looked a little better initially because it was a fresh incision and it looked like it was going to be gone, but it really wasn't gone by any stretch of the imagination.
Right. Little did you
So,
know.
right. And so at that point, I said to Dr. Mark Hibbert at Main Street Vet, I said, I want a biopsy immediately. And he had not said that to me. And I said, I don't know where you're going to send it, but I want it to go for a biopsy. So he sent it to UGA. And he called me like on a Friday afternoon. I was like, why do they do this on a Friday? But anyhow, he said it's Pythiosis. Had no idea what that was. And he didn't know what it was. And so,
That's
um,
always terrifying, right? When
very,
you're like, when the doctor's like, well, we have an answer, but we don't know what it
mhm,
means.
that is true.
Because wasn't Pythiosis originally found in only very specific locations in the US?
That is true. Swampy areas, Florida, Louisiana, Texas coast, um, overseas Thailand, it's very prevalent because they have the rice paddies, the water.
Right.
Okay. And I'm jumping back a minute. Somebody might say, well, oh, it was in your pond water. No, it doesn't happen that way. It travels on the water, but it doesn't live in the water. It lives on debris around the fresh water, not salt water. So, anyway, they sent back Pythiosis. Dr. Mark said he had done some research. There was a vet in Louisiana that was, I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but she was very instrumental in studying it, but she has since retired. So she was kind of out of the loop. So I hung up from Dr. Mark and I'm like, okay, I got to start looking because
Because
I've
we
got
got
to
to
save her
research
life.
that.
Yeah.
Well, and
I-
you are, I will say to our listeners, like, if I needed something researched, there are two people I would call. One would be my good friend Megan, and the other one would be Katie. Because Katie is my dragonness nods to your dragonness. Like Katie's a dragon. Like she's a dragon you want on your team and you don't want to cross her, right? Like, um, but when you were going through this with Minnie Moo, I can remember you were like researching and
Mhm,
getting like
mhm.
huge information every day.
Yes,
Because
that
we
is
were
true.
so scared. Like I have prayed for a lot of dogs, but not as much as I've paid for Minnie.
Well, that's true, and I have to say, I didn't know anything about it, and so the whole weekend I basically just spent researching, and that led me to Bob Glass. Um, he couldn't have been kinder when I called because I had some concerns about what did this really mean for Minnie Moo, and um, in a fearful sort of way, I wanted to know if I was going to come home and she would be passed. I wanted to know in terms of preparation what would that mean
Right.
in our home?
You
How
and
would
I are
that
both
play out?
like, okay, we're going to fight this, but I need to prepare myself for what the
Yes,
reality is
right.
likely,
And what about her?
especially a young dog.
Mm, that's true. And what about all the other dogs that had been in the same pond but didn't get it?
Right.
What does it mean? What does it mean in terms of my health or the family's health and all that kind of stuff too?
Exactly.
So, in the meantime, my regular vet called back and said that I had two choices. I could go to an emergency vet in Atlanta, or I could go over to Wilfred and Kate Bailey Small Animal Teaching Hospital in Auburn. And the thing that struck me about Auburn was that she was the fourth case in 3 weeks that had been of dogs that people had reached out to them. So I was like, oh, I think I want to go somewhere where, first of all, they're working on this right then and there as we were speaking. And if something happened to her, I wanted them to study her. I wanted them to be able to have her.
Right. You want to help the next family.
Yes. And I liked the fact that it was a teaching hospital, in the fact that all the departments would have been right there
if we
to
needed
help her. Exactly. So that Monday, we went to Auburn, Minnie Moo and
I remember.
And, they said to me, she's a great candidate. We want to help, but we need to take the next day and do every exam on her possible. And if there's anything else wrong with her, we'll probably decline. Because at this point in time, she still had the lump under her left front leg, which means they didn't have the margins to close that if they took that bump off. So I was pretty certain they were going to take her leg anyway.
Right.
And
then the grief associated with this, right? We have a young, otherwise healthy, 9-month-old lab puppy. What's that going to be like for her to miss a front leg?
Yes.
Of course, it's better than the alternative, but
this is true.
So let's take a little bit of a time out in the story to talk about what pythiosis is, because people don't know. So can you briefly explain, like layman's terms, what pythiosis is?
Yes. It's called an oomocyte, is what it's called. And it's an organism. It's treated somewhat like a fungus, but it's not actually a fungus. It grows a tail, which is, I think, called a hyphae. Let's just say it grows a tail. And it travels on the water, fresh water, or it can be on a droplet of fresh water, but it's an organism that is on the debris around the water. Okay,
right.
It could be on a blade of grass.
Does it eat something on the debris? Is that what is that how it feeds itself?
I don't
or
know.
Does it just get caught up on the debris?
It just, in other words, it wouldn't be living in the water, it would be living on the debris next to the water. That's how it was explained to me. And so what happens is, if the dog ingests the blade of grass that has that on there, they then can develop the internal version of this pythiosis.
Right, the digestive form.
Yes, you're exactly right. Or in Minnie Moo's case, somewhere in her fur, she had to have a break in the skin. But in her fur, I wouldn't have even seen that, because obviously if I had seen a wound, she would have been at the vet.
Right.
So it got into her from an opening on her skin.
Which,
And
again, 9-month-old puppy, could be she was playing with one of her friends and...
Yes, you're exactly right. So, starts out subcutaneous, and then when it burst open, you could actually see it. I mean, I can share the photos with you, but,
Viewer discretion is advised.
I would say yes. And I have to say, too, that any photos that I've seen of this, no two are alike. Hers didn't look like anybody else's that I had seen in public pictures or pictures that people had shared. So, in talking with the dermatologist over at Auburn, the decision was made that they don't go back in the pond. So nobody's been back in the pond. And I do have to say, Minnie Moo did go one time in the pond, and I was so mad. I was running. And when I got
and did you have cows or horses or something else on the property that needed water? That was part of the reason you wanted a pond.
The pond just came with the property. It wasn't that I needed the pond, but I feared labs would like a pond, and the cows are in the back, so they have their water trough and that sort of thing. But so no other dog goes in the pond now. But when she did, I mean, I can't blame her, but immediately she went in the bathtub and was rinsed off,
Right. You're like, as soon as you can, you bathed her. You were like,
yes,
ah.
straight away. But nobody else got it, but I wouldn't wanna go through it a second time ever, so nobody goes in the pond. That's just the rule here. So we have this oomocyte, and, her body now this is layman's talk because I'm not a vet, obviously,
Right.
but
Me
her
neither.
body didn't see it as an enemy, which is what caused it to grow so fast and not stop growing. She didn't recognize that, "Oh my god, I need to put in motion all these things that would stop that particular illness."
Right. No immunity response.
No, and
So is
so
that why this is so dangerous? Because the body doesn't recognize it as a danger?
that's one reason.
Okay.
Yes. The other reason is, a lot of times it's just chalked up as cancer.
Oh, interesting.
A lot I would say over 90% of the time it's chalked up as cancer because you see a mass if they've ingested it, if it's in the intestines or whatever, the stomach. It does resemble a mass, but that's because it grows so fast, it just chokes off and becomes a mass inside of there.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So rather than entertain an idea that it might be something else, it's cancer. But if you treat it as cancer, they're not going to survive because it's not cancer.
Right.
So you have to kind of go beyond that, which is what Bob Glass helped me to do.
Right.
And obviously Auburn. Now I have to say, um, Bob Glass tests for all three when you send a serum sample to him.
So he
When
tests
you
for Pythiosis.
lagdominium and paralagdominium. So his test is more inclusive than, say, like Auburn only tests for Pythiosis. But
Okay.
I had already gone to him, sent blood to him to get the diagnosis. And at the time that she was there for the surgery, she only had Pythiosis. It
Okay.
wasn't until later that she developed the other two. Now, scientifically, why that happened, I don't know.
Right. We didn't need to ask Bob.
Yes, yes. So anyway, it's not a fungus, but they do put the dog. They put Minnie Moo on what it's called some antifungal meds, but she didn't stay on that the whole time because it's not actually a fungus. It's an
Right.
organism. It's an organism. That's what I'll
And it's
say.
a weird organism. I can remember when you first explained it to me, I'm like, it's an alien. And you're like, it's kind
Yes.
of an alien. Like,
Hmm.
it's not a this, it's not a virus, it's not a
No.
fungus, it's not a cancer, it's not a
Right.
bacteria, it's this other weird hybrid.
Yes, that is true. And also in my research too, there's a gentleman, Dr. Mendoza at the University of Michigan, who has studied this and hosted lots of seminars and that sort of thing. And a lot of people from Brazil have come to the University of Michigan to hear him speak and hear him talk because he's very versed in this as well. Um, it's one of those things that if you can catch it early, timing is of the utmost importance
Right.
in terms of quickness. You've got to act quickly. And so when I was talking to Bob Glass, I said, here's the thing. Um, if you do the test and it's nothing, what's the difference? You know what I'm saying? You can still
Right.
go on with your ordinary protocol for whatever else it might be.
Right.
If you don't do this, for sure,
You don't know.
it's right. It's not looking good if you don't.
Right. It's a
Yeah,
death sentence.
it is.
So, are there other species that are susceptible to Pythiosis, like
Mhm.
horses, cows, people? Like, is it something we all need to be aware of if our dogs are around water that has anything on the edge of it, any debris?
Yes.
And is there
All the
any
above.
part of the US that we're not seeing it in at this point? Do you know?
Um, I didn't look at it from that point of view. I looked at it from the point of view of who was reporting it.
Right.
And more states are reporting it. So they're probably there's something I talked to Bob about temperature. For instance, when you get into the Colorados and you've got such freezing temperatures and cold, it's less likely to survive. But
Right.
then you have a spring season too, which means there's some research that needs to be done there in terms of what's coming,
Right.
I think the thing is more people that are open to investigating that it could be something other than cancer are finding that it's actually more prevalent.
Than we thought it was.
Exactly. And think about dogs like field training dogs, field
Right.
trial dogs, the hunting breeds that are out in the
Oh,
early
and search
morning
and
heat.
rescue dogs.
Yes, you're
Right. I'm
exactly
thinking about
right.
all those dogs who are doing searches in Helene, still in
Yes.
Appalachia, who are
Mhm.
still doing cadaver recovery and
Yes.
human remains recovery. Those dogs are around massive amounts of debris and water. And so I felt like it was really important to get this out, like do my part to try to get the information out. Okay, so she goes to
Plant
Auburn.
life, plant plant life debris.
Right, plant life
Y-
debris. So
Living, yeah, grass plant life debris like the the weeds and the grass and those brown things that live along the side of the pond. So it wouldn't be like on a brick, I wouldn't think,
right,
or something like that. It would be on a living.
right.
Yes.
But it would be, can it be along moving water like rivers and creeks? Or is it just ponds, stagnant water?
No, it could be fresh water. It
Okay.
can be moving
Any
creeks and
fresh
things like
water.
that. Fresh water. Yes, you're exactly right.
Okay.
And remember the rice paddies in Thailand.
Right. All right. So she gets to Auburn.
Hmm.
They do testing. This is the only medical problem she has. So what did
That's true.
they end up doing?
They took off her leg and her shoulder, her left front leg and her shoulder. It was hard to see. She came home. She stayed. I have to say though, that the students that were in her rotation were phenomenal. I have to say because they had updates every 2 hours, so I knew she was
Wow.
okay. Mhm.
Nice.
Yes, it was really nice. And so the dermatology vet there was Dr. Carly Hicks, and she too had done a lot of research on this particular illness right then and there, which was important because they wanted to see her. And because I think she was the fourth one in 3 weeks that they had seen, not necessarily all cutaneous, but the ingested form too. But I knew that there would be a connection between her department and the surgery department and that everybody could work together. And so that was important. Um, she was up and moving around. They called me to tell me she rearranged her blankets and her bedding because it wasn't the way she liked it. And I knew, oh, there we go. She's good. And
Right. That
I
is our
never
girl.
thought. Mhm, exactly. Um, recovery. She stayed, you know, pretty still. She had, a very large incision, but it was beautiful. I have to say. I mean, it was just masterfully done. I'll just say it like that. And she couldn't wait to get back outside, but I had to take her on a leash for quite a while, a
Right.
couple
That's
weeks,
a
and then we
big
went back.
wound to heal.
Exactly. Has it slowed her down any? No, not at all. She runs just as fast. She hasn't changed her personality. She's a good dog, I have to say.
She is a good dog.
Yeah.
So she's a special kid. Like she just is.
Yes.
She's been a special kid since she was a baby. So um I'm assuming she got the serum that people talk about that we can only talk about in a limited way. But there
Yes.
is a serum that's available that is used to treat this. She received the serum, yes?
She did. She had, I don't remember the number of doses after the surgery. And so,
That was to kill off anything that we might have missed, maybe, that was lingering in her
yes,
system.
yes, that's true. That is true. And then, um, I didn't really think anything else because, of course, I checked everybody's skin after that for anything and everything, just to make certain that nobody else would get it or that she didn't have anything. Um, we went back and forth the full year after the surgery, just so that they could update their paperwork and check her out and that kind of thing. And so, we did go back and forth quite a bit then, but other than that, nothing until about 2 years out when she actually had a throw up incident. And I was like, I don't like that. So I just said to Dr. Mark, let's send some blood to Bob Glass and see what happens. And that's when he said she had all three. So
That had to be terrifying.
I was terrified. Yes, because I
Like
don't know. I
just
don't
that
know.
sinking feeling of, oh no.
Well, right. And I said, I couldn't even really comprehend how did that happen. I don't even really understand
Right.
medically how that
Can
transpired for her. Yeah.
right.
How did it go from cutaneous to now she's got all three of those things showing up in her blood? But the importance of having all three of those things done is that what he would what he would recommend for treatment for that depends on which one of those three the animal has. So that's important to note. I guess the chemistry of that differs when it's just one as opposed to two or all three of
Oh,
them.
interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but it's survivable. Like you caught it crazy early as
Yes.
there was a symptom.
Yes.
And she's on a treatment regimen now. I think you said an injectable every 6 months.
That's true for the rest of her life. So apparently, whatever her body was supposed to do in terms of identifying those three things, the lagdominium, paralag, and pythiosis, as an enemy to her, her body doesn't recognize that. So she wouldn't have a way to fight that off, you know.
So then it just grows unencumbered. It just
Yeah.
has free
Right.
reign to ravage her if we weren't treating.
Now, some people have, I know, had surgical removal prior to maybe speaking to Bob and that sort of thing, if they had the intestinal kind or in the stomach or that sort of thing.
Right.
That seems like a really vicious surgery too.
Yes.
It's a deadly disease. That's
It's
just
a
all there is
deadly
to it.
disease. It's scary.
Mhm.
So we'll link PavLab. I'll I'll also see if I can find Dr. Mendoza and do a link for him, and Dr. Hicks, and see if can find a link for her. We'll also link on Facebook, and this is actually how I've learned a lot other than just talking to Katie. There is a Pythiosis group on Facebook that is incredible in supporting families with this very new diagnosis, and getting them information quickly. And I'll also look at veterinarypartner.com and see if there's a list about Pythiosis for that as well, so that we can have links in the show notes for everybody that you can kind of check this out. So where are we seeing, like, I think you told me about a case in Illinois.
Yes. That was a gentleman that
The gentleman that got it.
that hiked a lot and was outdoors and spent time in the freshwater creeks there.
Unfortunately survived.
He did survive.
I
He
will
did.
say this is not a great diagnosis. Like this is what I've observed. Like if I'm going to give somebody like the elevator version of what Pythiosis is, I basically say it's almost like a MRSA that's gone insane, right? Like a MRSA that is super virulent and moves so quickly. And I think that's the thing that's impressed on me through this whole process for Mini Moo is how fast this progresses.
Yes.
And that a lot of times you just don't have any time. Like there's no time to do the diagnosis by the time we realize the animal's sick.
You're exactly right. And that from her first bump, from the bump on her chest until the leg removal was a month, roughly a month. That's it. But, I wasn't stopping. So I didn't have time to really wait. I didn't have time to not decide something straight away. I had to keep going forward. And so timing is of the essence. And that's the other part. Dr. Mark had not heard of it, not because of his fault, but the textbooks themselves have not been updated to show where the other states are that are having this show up and who else might be studying this? I know that in Florida there's really a lot of growth down there because of all the water that's down there. And some people have used things like the what are the air chambers, the hyperbol the you know,
Hyperbaric chamber.
yes, you're exactly right. Thank you. And there's other things, but I think until people realize, oh, it could be this, you know, but for me, it would have been worth the $75 blood fee or whatever, overnighting that to Bob Glass, even if it was 4 times, as opposed to just not doing anything. You know what I mean?
Right.
If it came back nothing, I could still go on with whatever else I needed to do. But the fact that it came back positive and I knew that I could talk to him and relay the information to Dr. Mark, you know, when Minnie Moo went through this, I know they had to send them the medication to the vet. They wouldn't send it directly to me, and then I had to pick it up. I don't know if it's still that way, but that's how it was when I did it. You just send a form, the vet calls, sends a form to Bob Glass, overnight the blood sample, and then he has certain days that he does his testing.
Right. So how's Minnie today?
She's great. She's a pistol.
She's always been a pistol. So,
Yes,
so
she's,
Minnie Moo, as a puppy, would walk into our puppy class like she owned the joint and she was here to just show everyone around. She was also like the best big sister in puppy class. So like if a puppy came in that was a little bit nervous or didn't understand what was going on, she was like, here, I'll show you. Like she was like the ambassador to puppy class. So one of those really special dogs that we all like, you fall in love with all of them. Like they're all fantastic. But Minnie definitely has her own jive going on. And I do want to say, like, this recording is not about throwing shade at any vet who doesn't know about this.
No.
Vet school who doesn't know about this.
No.
The reality is, this is a really well kept secret because we're at a point in this disease that it's spreading and we're learning more every day, right?
Absolutely.
There's just not a lot of information yet. And yet it's a really deadly disease that we're seeing show up more and more. I know a dog here in town, here in Athens, who had the digestive form and nearly passed away.
Yes.
He's a phenomenal dog, and we have a local vet who treated him, who did unbelievable work for this dog and this family. So, the fact that little Athens, Georgia area has 2 cases within 2 years is huge. Like
Yes.
that was mind-blowing to me.
Yes. Well, and that was too the reason that, Auburn had seen 4 cases in 3 weeks. That's a big deal.
That's a
But
lot.
it also told me that they were on top of whatever they could do to help the families and the dogs that had this. But keep in mind too, it's really weird. They call, in some of the slang terminology, they call it swamp cancer. It's not cancer, but that's just the slang name that they have given it. So other animals can get it, and it can be on any location in the dog. You can't be fooled by the fact that it might be somewhere that you wouldn't expect.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Like on the neck.
Yes, exactly. But it could be. I mean, you just don't know. Any wound that doesn't heal, I'd be sending blood to Bob Glass immediately for the cutaneous or subcutaneous version. Any dog that would have like diarrhea, rapid weight loss, and throw up, oh my God, get some blood to him immediately. You don't lose to do that. And then you have to say to thank God Dr. Mark was like, the medication that he was going to provide wasn't going to harm her, but it very well could have saved her, which is what happened.
Right.
So I am very thankful that he was willing to advocate for her,
Right.
and go beyond. And he called Bob Glass and they had conversation, which I was also very appreciative of because some people wouldn't have done that.
Exactly.
Right.
No, I mean, I think your case was a really impressive one in that your vet was very, very, very willing
Yes.
to navigate
Absolutely.
with you and
Yes.
to view you as a partner in the process, because you had the time and energy to do a bunch of research that he probably didn't have the bandwidth for in the time, right? Like he was going to be
Yes.
trying to do it, at midnight when he should be sleeping so he can take care of many other animals the next day. So I
Yes, you're
really
exactly
always
right.
appreciated that. And that, I mean, that's always what I'm looking for in a vet too, that we're all on a team together and we're curious and we're all just trying to benefit the animal.
That is
Um,
true.
so, um, is there anything you would? I'm glad that Minnie Moo is still with us and doing great. She's
Me
a
too.
mess. She's hysterical. She's so funny. And I love that it hasn't changed her, that she's like,
No.
haha, I'm just as fast. I'm nimble. Um,
She is just fast.
oh yeah. No, I've known a lot of dogs that are missing a front leg and they're just as fast. And frankly, even when they miss a back leg, they're still fast. Like they
Mhm.
just learn how to move differently. Um, is there any other aftercare that she's having to get that's a little bit different? Like, is she getting chiropractic to keep her spine healthy? Does she have special stretching because now there's more wear and tear on one leg?
No,
Okay.
nothing. I mean, she does sleep on the bed though.
Right. She gets, yes, she's the $1 million puppy. So
Yes,
she,
she
um,
does get to sleep on the bed.
too funny. And is there anything else you think families need? And to be clear, I don't think you're talking about every dog that gets diarrhea or vomiting having testing with Bob Glass. Um, but if they've been around water and water that has debris around it, that would kind of reclassify it for you.
Yes. Well, our dog that's, it can be on a blade of grass. So if you have areas that don't ever dry out in a
So that's
backyard or a front
something to
yard,
be
side yard or something, just be mindful of it. You know what I'm saying? The results come back rather quickly. So it would be an ease of mind to know yay or nay, it's something that needs to be handled. The other thing is that on his website at PAVLab, Pan American Vet Lab, there's a brochure, a booklet that he's since put together, and also it lists the other, cows, sheep, horses. Wasn't there there used to be something that horses got along their ankles um,
I
that
think we used to call it
can
swamp rot.
like that, but he
And
could
I'm
tell.
wondering if that was Pythiosis all along, because
Mhm,
we had
exactly.
dogs that were getting it at dog shows. And it was
Yes.
all in that, like, don't take your dog to Louisiana, don't take your dog anywhere
Yes.
that there are swamps. Like, there was a
Yes.
big thing for
Uh-huh.
people who were breeding and showing. Don't take
Yes.
your dogs to these places because we had a bunch of cases come out. So, and I just remember that as like this panic that like blew up and then went away
Yes.
relatively quickly, like 3 months, it was gone. And I do wonder, like, was that
Well,
Pythiosis
you
or
have
what
to wonder. Yeah, you almost really have to wonder because, I think that, publishing companies are slow to upgrade. It's costly to rewrite and to investigate and to do things like that. So I'm not pointing the finger at vets who don't know. I'm just saying, even their literature is probably
may say
outdated.
that it's not in Georgia,
Right, right.
because
Or it's
at the time of
two
publishing, they didn't
sentences.
have any.
Yes. Or two sentences about, like, for instance, maybe Thailand, where it is so
Right.
prevalent because of the rice paddies. But, um,
I
but
wonder if a
if
lot
I,
of now I'm going to go down the rabbit hole of, do a lot of people in Thailand get it?
yes, I'll say yes. I remember, but they're standing in
Hopefully,
that water.
hopefully they're treating it.
Mhm. I can't remember the connection to South America, Brazil. There's a connection of them going to meetings with Dr. Mendoza at the University of Michigan, but I have forgotten that connection. There's another connection there too, but I'm not remembering right off the top of my head. Um, but in other words, other farm animals can get it too. You know, I haven't seen it in any of my other animals, but
Well,
I'm
and I
thankful.
suppose it begs the question, like, are deer getting it? Are squirrels getting it? Are raccoons getting it? And they just succumb, and we don't know
They just
because
die off.
nobody's taken them to the vet. So, I don't think that you're saying, and I know I'm not saying that everybody should be panicked about this. Like, that's
No,
not about
no.
being alarmist, but it is about recognizing that this is out there and it's a thing, and it's something that kind of right now, like I have a vet who takes classes with us right now. I'm going to ask her if she's ever heard of it, right? She's a really well-educated veterinarian. She's lovely. But I'll ask her about it. Like, have you ever heard of this? Have you tested any animals? Like, it is something that's local to just get the
Mhm.
word out. Because I think that is important.
I think that's the importance of importance of lay people, though, because you and I had talked about it way back when Minnie Moo was first diagnosed,
Right.
and in the meantime, the Facebook page is a large page where people can go and actually,
And I will say, like, trigger warning, the Facebook page, you do sometimes see photos. So
yes,
they're usually behind a like viewer discretion kind of
I
window.
didn't post that. Yeah, I kept. I posted after I took her shirt off and you could see the long incision, but I never posted the wound itself
Right.
because it didn't look like any of the other people's pictures. And so I didn't want people to be confused about I,
Right.
I think even though this is a disease, I would probably say that each individual dog
Different.
is its own individual case.
Right.
Hmm.
Um, and so again, like I don't think any of us are being alarmist. We're just trying to say,
No,
like, hey, this is something that there's kind of a blind spot, and not out of, people choosing to close their ears and, close their eyes and cover their ears and go, la, 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 I'm ignoring this. Like, it's not that. It's that it's just, it's not well known yet. Like, that's all.
no,
So the more we talk about it, the more we empower families to
absolutely.
advocate for their dogs, which also allows us to advocate for our vets and our groomers,
Yes,
right? I
yes,
want a groomer to be on the lookout for this. Like,
absolutely.
you may find it
Yes, that's
and
true.
save a life, literally save a life. Um, I will say what I was also going to say about the Facebook group is that we are often giving our condolences to a family that um, it's found too late, or
Yes,
the animal succumbs because just the amount of impact on the body has just been too great. Uh,
yes, and quick, and quick.
yes,
It's
and I
not a
think that's
slow
part of it.
thing. Yes, it's very quick. And that was why I wanted to check with Bob Glass about would it be so fast that I would come home and she would have passed? And he said, you know, I would know by then. But many times I noticed on the Facebook page that it had been so long already.
Right.
And not because it was intentional, but just because people don't know.
Even if you knew about it, I mean, I found way back with Minnie Moo, I found literature that said that it was not in any state except, Florida, Mississippi, like all of kind of the Gulf area.
Yes,
Well, it
yes,
turns out that that's not accurate information,
no,
maybe because things weren't getting. rep- I mean, first, there's probably, maybe there is now a Pythiosis association that things are getting reported to, but I don't know that all the cases are getting reported to any central location. Are they?
I don't think so. Because
So,
I
so
think
trying to
that's
get
why
data
everybody
is
was
hard.
right. Well, and I think that's why you had someone in Michigan, Dr. Mendoza, you had the woman that retired in Louisiana, you have Auburn. And think about it. I mean, we have UGA here, a fabulous teaching hospital, but it wasn't like come immediately. They didn't
Right?
say anything. They only
They didn't
made the
have a
diagnosis. Yeah.
right,
But not because they're not a good hospital.
right.
It's because it wasn't it just wasn't on their radar like it was on the radar of Auburn.
Right. And to be clear, like different researchers are going to be working on
Yes.
different things. So someone at Auburn got a wild hair to learn about Pythiosis, and that probably
Exactly.
changed things. I know I've seen that at other university teaching
Yes.
hospitals as well, where a researcher comes across, a weird case of something they've never seen before that they can't find information on, and then they start to be curious about it. And that's how
hmm
the Bob Glasses of the world happen. And we're so grateful for that.
Thank God for him. I have
Yes.
to say, he's and he answered things for me in a way that were very easy to understand, because maybe my questions weren't so medical, but I wanted to know real life how this was going to move forward. You know what I'm saying? And so he was able to answer in that way too, which was also a blessing, I have to
Yes.
say.
So to be clear, the podcast will have Bob on. Bob's had some family stuff go on that has taken up his spare time. And he really has a passion for helping with Pythiosis. And so we're just going to be patient. Bob's worth the wait.
Yes,
But I
100%.
also had on my, I had a new case locally that the family was talking to me about what was going on with their dog. I talked to them about Pythiosis. They reached out. Their dog does actually have Pythiosis. And so I was able to kind of get them jump started because, again, their sweet vet, who is wonderfully gifted, an amazing vet, um, didn't know about it. And so when
Yep.
they tested, then they found it. So
Yes.
hopefully this, and I shared like Auburn's got a program, contact Auburn. Because a
Mhm.
bunch of this is getting the animal to the people who can help them as quickly as we possibly can.
Yes, that's true. 100%.
And it's not, I think, as especially as dog owners, like you and I are both the dog doesn't look right and we're going to the vet. But there are a lot of people who, have 3 kids, have a busy life, that the dog has a little bump and we go, well, we'll check it at the next vet appointment. Um, And I would say, like, when I had 3.2 kids at my house, like, that was sometimes how it went too. No shade to
Yeah.
anybody
Yeah.
experiencing that. But I do want to say, like, this is one of those things that time is of the essence.
100%.
And again, it's a little bit of a blind spot. So I don't want to
Yeah.
scare anybody, but I do want to make people aware, and that, it niggles around in the back of their mind that maybe we should run blood work and check, even though it's something pretty simple or
Right.
appears
And
pretty simple.
not all places do that particular test, the ELISA test. So, if you send it directly to PavLab, you're going to get a test for all 3 of those things, not
Right.
just the Pythiosis. Like Auburn did a blood test on Minnie Moo, but they said, oh, just Pythiosis. But I had already done it. So I knew she didn't have at that time, at the initial time, didn't have the other 2. Do you know what I'm saying? So
Right.
I think, I wanted to make sure that whatever I was going to do, it was going to happen quickly, and that it was going to go to the person that would be the most beneficial for her,
Right.
and
Really
how awful would I
advocating
have,
for our
right.
dogs.
How would I have felt had I let somebody say, well, it's just cancer,
Right.
and then I did nothing? That would
No,
be horrible.
and I remember you really struggling with our hair's on fire and I don't like making fast decisions. Like, you and I are both people who don't
Right.
like making fast decisions. We like to look at all the facets and marinate a little bit and decide what was going to happen. And in the case of Minnie, we didn't have time to do that. Like,
There was
it
no
wasn't
time.
going to happen. I do have to say, and I'm going to say it publicly because I think it's an important, I was humbled hugely that you reached out to me and said, this is what's going on and you need to be aware and how do we navigate through this, and that you included me. Because as a
Thank you.
trainer, I really work to be a safe place for anyone in my community, and that you can make the world go around with all the things I don't know, but I will love you through it. To the best of my knowledge. And I care, like, I'm engaged. I care. I want to know.
Yeah.
Even if I can't, I think I offered to go to Auburn with you. I think I was like, do you want me to go with you? Because we would have canceled
Right.
classes and I would have gone with you, because like, this was awful. This was an awful diagnosis and one that was terrifying.
It was. 100%. You're right. And I appreciate that because I figured who else would know how to spread the word to dog people other than you. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And that I think that is what's going to be the pinnacle in getting this to go to an area where it becomes, oh, let's check this, as opposed to somebody just saying, well, I'm sorry, your dog is just going to pass away, or your cow or your horse or your donkey or whatever.
Right. Right. And which would be awful.
Yeah.
So
And remember, we did the other things first. You know,
right.
it wasn't like, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
The surgical removal. But if a person sees that they've done a surgical procedure and that wound keeps growing beyond the incision and keeps opening up, you know something's
Something's
not
wrong.
right. Yeah. I didn't know what, but at that time, but I was like, something's not right.
Right. And I love that your heart wasn't immediately to blame the surgeon. Right. It was
No.
like, no, this is something else. Like we got this
Mhm.
wrong. Like we
Right.
need to be more curious. So I'm so glad she's still with us. And I'm so
She's
glad that you shared it with me and that you were willing to come on the podcast and talk about it. Is there anything else that I haven't asked you about that we haven't gotten to that you would want to share with our listeners?
I think just try to be positive and try to remain hopeful because she is a success story. You know, she's going to be 6, and she was born on the 27th of December, and so her birthday she'll be 6. And you know, she hasn't lost her spirit for life. It was challenging, and it wasn't a decision that I would have ever not done for her. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? I had to do that for her because I'm her pet owner and
You're
she's
her
part of the
advocate.
family. Yes,
Right.
absolutely. 100%.
Yeah. And
And
I mean, you've always taken your stewardship of your animals very, very seriously. Um, I always say dogs are blessed. Animals are blessed to be a part of your family because you do right, to the best
mhm,
of your ability, like we all do, right? Like we all try
that's
to.
true.
So, um, thank you so much for
Thank you
being
for
willing
having me.
to come on and to chat about this. Not a great, um, not a great fun part of life, but a really good happy ending. That's
Yes,
awesome. So if you'll send me cute pictures of Minnie Moo being Minnie Moo,
I will.
we'll try to make her the face of the episode so that she
Oh, that
can
would be nice. Yes.
be the smiley dog that she is. You all get to see sweet Miss Minnie Moo. Um, why did you name her Minnie Moo?
Well, I have to say because at the time that right around the time that she was out starting to go out and walk, I had 2 cows named one Bing and one Elvis, and she was just so inquisitive about them. And it just kind of stuck that she was my mini moo because she wasn't afraid of them, yet she was this tiny puppy and she always went to see them. And I do have a picture when she came back from surgery. She's in her shirt. The first thing she did was go to the fence to see them. And
Right,
I
go
was like,
visit her
wow,
friends.
yes. So it just kind of stuck. You know, she
Right.
just was so curious about them and they were so big compared to her. I was like, wow. It was just how I kind of ended up.
And my experience is dogs usually, or horses, sorry, cows. Third try, Tina. Um, my experience is that cows are really, really curious in general, like about everything.
Yes.
And
Um,
so I love how curious they are about dogs.
yes.
Yeah.
They are curious. They are almost like big dogs sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. They can be like big, silly dogs.
Uh-huh. I just want to say thank you for having me and thank you for, being in touch with Bob Glass. And even though I have not met him personally, I have to say he has picked up that phone every single time that I've called. And I never thought that any question was too silly or too simple for him. He answered me. He was respectful and thoughtful. And we even had conversations that went above and beyond, you know, Minnie Moo's case of Pythiosis. So
Right.
he's a fascinating gentleman. I appreciate his work.
Yes.
And
And I will say, like, when I've reached out to him, he has always been absolutely amazing and gracious and friendly and patient because I
yes,
always have questions. I have lots of questions, and sometimes they're weird.
Uh-huh.
Arguably, I've made a living by asking weird questions. So, well, thank you again for coming on. I hope I get to see you soon. We should
Oh, thank
probably
you
have
so
a
much.
meal together.
That would be nice.
All right. Well, thank you. And if you have any questions about Pythiosis, if you've had an experience, if you need any support, please let us know. You can email us at yourfamilydogpodcast@gmail.com. You can also reply to the comments. Please like and share this episode if it's something that's interesting to you. You can also share it with your veterinarian. That's a wonderful way to spread
That's a
awareness.
great way.
And feel free to give us your feedback about what kinds of topics you'd like to hear and how we can help you and your family get more comfortable and to make it even more enjoyable to live with your family dog. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Your Family Dog. Got questions? Interesting ideas? Visit www.yourfamilydogpodcast.com to share your thoughts.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.